Do you want to make your tattoos better? Well, you've come to the right place. Today is one of my favorite days. We are reviewing Discord tattoos. If you are not in the Discord, get in. It is free. Pretty sure you can afford that, even if you're an apprentice. Now, if you're new, first time watching the video, I take submissions from our Discord, which I love and has been growing so quickly. Put them up here, choose some people, review the tattoos, and we talk about how we can improve. This is geared towards improving. You know, if I look at some of these and I say good job, that does absolutely nothing for you. We're going to talk about things that I see that we can make little tweaks or changes to become a better tattooer. So let's dive into it. Our first submission is from ArtTats603, Andy. I'm self-taught and new to tattooing. I've only been tattooing for around 3-ish months, and I'm interested in some constructive criticism on some of the work I've done on friends, family, and myself. Your YouTube channel has been so helpful. Let's check it out. All right, we have a spider with some flowers. So we're looking for some constructive criticism. What I'm seeing right off the bat is maybe the black isn't fully saturated. Looks like there's kind of a glare on the spider, so it's like a little bit hard to tell. Some areas is pretty decent though, and we got some red in there. All right, so it looks like the design is incomplete, but I do see some like stencil stuff up in here because I see the web kind of is broken off, like there's something that's going to go there. So I assume it's unfinished. I think when it's finished, it will look pretty cool. To me, a lot of the lines look the same width. I might like to see some line variation to break it up. It looks like you did try to implement a thicker line on the flowers. I might even go a little thicker just to create some separation on those. And I see, you know, you are coloring in the solid blacks, which is great. I do see some shading coming from that, but maybe even more shading to like show some depth. Like if we just had like little drop shadows here, it would kind of set the web a little bit more in the background. And you could do this really light just to help show some separation. The line work doesn't look terrible. There are some bumps, that's okay. I do like this solid black stuff on the bottom. I'd like to see that pattern repeated, and I know it's not finished, you know? So like if we start to see some of that like over here to create a balance, and then the overall flow, you know, coming up this way, I would like to see something matched this way, you know, to kind of keep that nice cycle going. Typically, just my preference with the outside of the arm is I create the flow like this, and then I'll have it here again. But you can make it work kind of coming up this way. But my kind of go-to is I might have flipped the image on the arm. I would really like to see a final version of this tattoo when it is completed. And you know, sometimes I even like to just kind of do some light grays on the outside just to take up more space. But yeah, so those are things quick off the bat that I see, you know, you could pay attention to, creating the separation from the different images. Like, okay, here are the flowers, separation, here's a new topic, here's a new piece, you know, the web, the spider. And maybe even surrounding the web in some flowers. I like how you are kind of creating this flow with the direction of the flowers, like going next to each other. It would be cool to see some variation in size with the flowers, right? And then if you want to play around with line weights, make things a little bit thicker. But those are my points of improvement that I'm seeing on this tattoo. Thank you so much for your submission, Andy. Let's get on to the next submission. It is by Burnsy Inc. G'day, mate. That's what he wrote. I'm not making fun of him. Self-taught artist. Been in the studio 3 years now. Thought I'd share a few tattoos I've done in the last few weeks. Keen to hear what you have to say about my work. Let's check out the work. Oh, nice. So it's like a knee spider with a skull head. It's a cool picture. So, well, let's talk about that first, because I'm like weird about pictures. I like the picture. There's a lot of black right up here. When I photograph, kind of do like the thirds rule, like I might have I might have like zoomed it in a little bit more. This is so silly, but you have to take like good photos. Like if you just look at it like that, where like there's less black, I don't know. I just feel like it's a nicer picture. But we're not talking about pictures. We're talking about the tattoos. So first thing I'm looking at is light source. Where's the light source? Based on these shadows, it kind of looks like it's like right above, because like they're all coming in. So, and then like I'm a little confused because if we have an above light source, I don't know if there'd be like a break here. I think it's like hitting right here, therefore it would kind of like ripple out. These can be tough because I know a lot of times like with these cool spider tattoos, we're focusing on the shadows coming from the legs, which you did a great job. Based on how the shadows are, it looks like the light source is directly above all the legs, meaning it'd be like kind of front and center. So the light source is like throwing me off a little bit. Like maybe it's here or here. I like to make a very obvious light source. Like I probably would have like really shown that it's here, but then the spider itself is like dark, right? So it'd probably be easier to show light source on the skull because it's light. But I'm seeing this, you know, the half here. So this is a little confusing to me. Also, I'm not sure if we're going for a textured look because I see like this is really textured, these shadows, and then like these are a little smoother. I think I like the smooth ones a little bit better in this. Either way, it's a really fun piece. I remember the first time I saw one of these pieces, I really wanted to try the effect with the legs. A lot of times, like I'll find exact photographs of spiders and use that. Because when you have this many things going on to achieve a perfect light source, it can be kind of difficult to just do it on your own if you're not like a light source master. And making it extremely obvious where the light source is coming from, in my opinion, is best used with a single light source. Sometimes it can get confusing if there's multiple light sources, different shadows, you know, it's a whole thing. So if we are going for a shadow effect, which we are with these crazy spider pieces, I would focus on single light source, make it very obvious where it's coming from. You know, so if you're looking for points of improvement, we can talk about light source, making it more obvious, maybe spending a little bit more time on our accent pieces like the spider web, and you know, cleaning up the face, and don't be afraid to go black. Either way, thank you so much for your submission. I loved critiquing this one. Let's do another one. Emil. Been tattooing consistently nearly 2 years. Self-taught. Oh, a little mysterious, keeping it simple. Let's check out the picture submission. Whoa, we got this scary girl. This looks like the girl's Fritz dates. Right off the rip, it looks a little muddy to me. I would like to see more negative space. Photo's a little dark. Like in the hand, I would probably keep the hand pretty negative because it's like in our forefront. I know it's really hard to do that with hands because they have so many crinkles and defining features. But if I'm putting a hand in front of my face, you know, I'm gonna keep it simple and light because I want you to look at the face, not the hand. So I think the hand's a little bit too dark. Now, if we make the hand light, we need like a dark background to hold it. So I'd probably bring this background down a little bit, you know? When I do pieces like this on thin limbs and arms, I like to have it wrap. So when I take the photo, I don't see these like skin bars on the side, you know? I would either make it big enough that it takes up the whole space, or I'd bring the background out. I do like how you started to separate some of these highlights on the face, like forehead, nose, top of the lip. You're giving her an expression, opening your mouth. That's great. This one too, I guess, on the chin. I would simplify this. I think you're doing more work than you need to. I would have those highlight points, forehead, nose, mouth. Her head's tilted, so the light, forehead might be first, nose second, lips third, chin last. So with that many variations, I don't think they'd all be highlights. I would literally shade completely over this bottom part. I'd cut the face in half. So everything on the right side, the eye, I'd have none of that skin tone, all nice and dark, you know? If you want to keep this dark aesthetic with the high contrast, and I would do this, and I would put all the focus right here on her face, you know? Have it be nice and dark. Then I get a little bit lost in the hair and the horns. A lot of it's just dark. I do see that you put some white in there, you try to break it up. I might have like a shine point right here, show off some like texture, you know? Like keep the sides as dark as you would, but maybe just have it be, this one's good dark. In the hair, break it up a little bit, light, in the back of the hair, completely dark. Because that way it reminds us where the light source is. If her forehead is getting that much light, her horn probably is too, and then I would just extend the background to capture it all, you know? So that would be my critiques on this piece. I think you're definitely in the right direction. Some of the hardest parts, like getting expression, getting proportions right, you're accomplishing. So that's a great start. So we're just gonna focus on some of those things, you know, with light source and balancing out the piece. And I think it's gonna be a killer tattoo. Thank you so much for your submission. All right, this next one is from JC83. There's just a picture, no words. I like that, mysterious, just a picture. You know, they say picture's worth 1,000 words, but this is a picture of only one word. So let's get into it. All right, lettering, man. Lettering makes me nervous because your bar is perfection. There are a lot of styles out there, realism especially, where you don't have to be perfect. You can hide a lot of mistakes. Lettering, you cannot do that. The lines are everything. Like, is this lettering done well? Line work, that is the only way to judge it. So off the rip, you know, I kind of see some like lines that aren't perfect. The double line, that's a hard game to play, man. You're playing in dangerous territory here. You know, here there's kind of a bend. You know, some corners look a little dull. You know, this one looks sharp. The Z actually looks pretty good. And I know there's a bend in the chest there, and it still looks good. But I would spend all of my time making sure these double lines are absolutely perfect. I like the faces in there. Some people think this is like kind of cheesy, honestly, but I've kind of always been a fan of that. I've seen it done with the horror faces, you know, Marvel, whatever you got. Oh, all my boys are in here, even Iron Man. See him on the side. I can't see that last letter. Not that I'm like the best reader. This is why I don't do lettering. I'm kind of illiterate. But let's take a look inside the letters. I think I would like to see more black, honestly. The on our boy right here, on the Z, like I think I would have put black in the corners and faded it out, or just made the whole area black and make it really bold. Like, it's already a bold look. The line work is literally bold. You know, the style in the lettering. You know, here, yeah, I think more black. I would use more black. The double lines in the letters, they look so dark and black, and the faces kind of look dulled out, and the faces are cool. Like, you did a good job with this, like placing them in the letter so they fit, but also still being able to tell what they are. Spidey looks a little light to me. Like, I would have, you know, bumped up the contrast a little bit here, maybe even in his eye too, you know, make it really obvious. Light source point. And they are 3D, so you can like brush down from the letters too. Like, you know, like if you wanted, you could brush down here, because you want to keep it balanced, right? A lot of the letters have some dark up top, and Spidey doesn't. You know, Hulk's got his hair here, you know, I would have brushed it down a little bit. The good news is you can always go darker, right? So I would see how this thing heals, see how the black balances out. You know, maybe you wanted more focus on the line work stuff, so you kept black out of it. I would put black in it. You know, I'd really bump up the contrast on that. You know, first things first, lettering always is line work. So let's focus on the line work. Let's get it absolutely perfect. Every line matters. With these, I will create a double line stencil, really thin. That way, my line work is kind of thicker than the stencil, and I can see exactly what I'm creating. That's something I do to help with lettering, but those are my critiques on this piece. Thank you so much for your submission. Look forward to the next one. All right, next up is Jozook. Let's check it out. All right, let's open it up. What do we got? Oh, Pokemon. Love Pokemon. Just kidding, Dragon Ball Z. I don't know what the other one is though. Okay, not bad tattoos. I like this style. I don't like do it, but it has a lot of similarities to my style. But let's get into it. With the Dragon Ball on the left, it's like too dark. It looks muddy. Usually muddiness comes from too many midtones. I don't know if you were like copying a reference. Let's just get into it. So this, I probably would have made this like negative space a little cleaner. I do like that you kept a nice dark border because that's just the best up against negative space. But see, you did it like on his shoulder here. Like I love how you did it. You followed like the motion of what's actually happening. And this one, it just seems like lazy, kind of almost like a thought bubble kind of style. I would have kept it like tight, almost like the negative is like a line itself, like a highlight line. Like any graffiti writers out there, like if you put an outline on something, that's how I would approach a highlight in this piece. Now, I just don't see enough black. I see a lot of dark gray everywhere. Dark gray, dark gray, dark gray. I would like, this is black, you know what I mean? These in the background, anything in the background. Maybe a little light there, black. These ones over here. And then I would have made these front ones a little lighter. Here, black, It looks like you kind of like skinny lined, you like thin boyed some of these. If you can, would just take the 3RL and like make that shade and that shape rather than like line it out. Like I love how you did it here on the neck. There's no thin line there, or I can't see one. Use the shades, but then there's another one here. Like I would have just cleaned it up with shading. Cool, let's look at the other one. So I love the fingers, like how you did that shade. You got this shadow core right here, this dark, and you flick down. To me, that would have been the most fun effect to do on the whole tattoo. So I think you nailed it with that. Honestly, I would have liked to see that a little bit more on the knuckles. You bring your harsh shadow here. When I get the chance to do that in my work, like a harsh shadow and then fade out, it just looks so cool. You could do that. That happens in real life. That's a light source thing. So love the hand. This thing's kind of weird. If you're gonna leave something like only line work, I like to show off the line work. Like, cool, you make your box bold. You make your rim of the heart bold. Do some like skinny boys on the inside and just show it off, because that's all you have at that point. You don't have the shading as much. But then as we move up the piece, it just gets too open to me. So on the one you went too dark. On this one I think you went too light. Like I don't know what this is. That I would have probably like put a fade on, or maybe the opposite way because the hand's dark. I would have gone like darker in here to accentuate the face, This can be wide open because it's like the closest thing, but I think our light source is like here because of his face. So I would have just, shade this in there, a really light amount on the part of the hat. If you want, you could kind of do one here. And you can do these like wicked shadows up here. Like, you don't have to, but if you want, you could do one here and you could flick off. Maybe just leave that open because you have to go really light for that to make sense. But if you do one here, you can do the same style shadow, you're doing on the fingers, where the shadow meets is the darkest, and as it fades away, it's like lighter. But yeah, I'd like to see some more contrast, like bump it up a little bit more, black, things in the background black. I probably would have just like shaded a light tone over all that so it goes in the background. So the basics on the left, on Goku, I'd like to see more black. And I would loosen it up a little bit with the grays. It looks a little muddy. Keep our negative borders, like if we're using them like a power line, a negative power line, make those crisp, like really show off that style. The one on the right, it's a little too light. You know, I'd like to see you bring things forward and push things back, you know, using, you know, value and contrast. But thank you so much for your submission. I love this style. I love these pieces. Some small tweaks. These are gonna be really cool tattoos. Guys, thank you so much for your submissions. I've been having an amazing time. Hopefully you guys have been too in the Discord. Again, if you're not, like, join. You can afford it. It's free. But I love seeing the progress. We had some really nice tattoos this episode. I can't wait to see more. And hopefully these are helping you guys as much as they're helping me. When I break down your tattoo, I get to think about my own flaws and how I can improve. And that's what this is all about. I love the community that we've been building, just tattooers trying to get better at the art. So thank you guys so much and see you next time.